Basically, it was a Facebook, Twitter, Google, Amazon, Apple bash session.
Oh man, I'm sorry I missed it.
Followed by, there's this thing we have called Dead Robot Society podcast. You could download it and listen to it, or you could watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, but then when I have some point that I disagree with, I tell it to Minnie, and Minnie always agrees with me.
You can write it down. Here's the funny part. You could send it as an email to show at Dead Robot Society.
I just
or you could tweet to Paul_E_Cooley.
I might just have to do
Or
that.
you could post it to the listeners of the Dead Robot Society Facebook group where all the crazy happens.
I just might have to do that. Dear Paul, longtime listener of the show, first time emailer.
Howdy, folks, and welcome to episode 543 of the Dead Robot Society. I'm Paul Lee Cooley. Joining me, as always, Mr. Terry. Well, almost always, as we'll find out in this episode, Mr. Terry Mixon. How the hell are you?
You totally ruined my intro, and I was going to say, and I'm not John Miro.
Oh, whoops. I didn't realize we were doing a shtick.
We should do a thing on comedy, except that you're not that funny.
No, I wish I knew how to write comedy. I wish my sense of humor was well, I wish I could translate my sense of humor.
You can translate your sense of humor, but most people laugh nervously and back away.
Yeah, that's usually what happens. Well, some of them stick around for it. Yeah, remember the street? Anyway, that notwithstanding, how the hell are you, sir?
Tired, sick, all of the above.
Wow, you must have been at a con.
Pretty much. It wasn't a con. It was more like a summit.
A writer's retreat.
A writer's retreat. Where a couple of dozen high-performing indies and some traditional authors of note were there and just did lots of talking and wandering around Napa Valley. Man, that place is overpriced.
I'm so shocked it's overpriced. I'm so shocked. So you had fun? You learned stuff?
I did. Had lots of fun. Got to spend probably about 5 hours on Tuesday sitting and talking and listening to David Weber tell stories. So who doesn't want the opportunity to sit with one of their heroes?
So basically you were fanboying without fanboying?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Okay, then. Did you come back with any important information for us?
I came back with lots of information that I'm still processing.
Okay, fair enough. So we will postpone your travel log episode till later.
Yeah, it's basically this retreat involved a ton of small group conversations where I'm not sure what I've pulled out of all of it. I've certainly made a lot of connections that are going to be useful, I think, going forward in talking about issues, talking about things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go to get on the airplane and come home and get sick. That's pretty much how that works.
That's usually how it works. You've got the concrete, and welcome back to Houston and the 14 billion pounds of pollen that are in the air.
Why can't I have a video of me walking off the airplane going, I'm back in Houston, and all of a sudden this white slaps me in the face, the yellow poof.
Yeah,
greenish yellow poof of pollen smacking me in the face.
Yeah, I love waking up in the morning, looking outside, and the sky is the color of green snot. It's just so awesome.
It's hard to argue with that.
Yeah, Snots Day. It's every Wednesday in Houston right now. Let's see, what have I been up to? Way too many different things. Recording, writing, still struggling with a short story. I've written 3 things, none of them are right. So I have to go back to the drawing board. But the cool thing,
and you missed on all 3? What?
Probably. Anyway, you derailed me, you son of a bitch. The other thing is I've been working on Trident and it's still moving. It's still going. It's still flowing every time I go back to it. And I just got to get time to get back to it. But May is coming. It's like winter, only worse. So May is going to be the first episode of The Black Evolution. May is also going to be when I release that audiobook. May is also going to be, or as soon as I get back from Balticon, will be the day I start the subscription service on my site. So May is going to be a little. Plus, I have the robot thing in less than a week, well, a week and a half, and then I have this other thing that's due at the end of May. So yeah, it's going to be busy month, very busy month. But every time I get in front of the keyboard to write, the words are there. At least as long as it's on Derelict.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, except that it's not helping me make these short story deadlines. That's an issue. Anyway,
short stories are fun.
The problem is the short story I wrote for the Pondy thing for Balticon. Yeah, it turned into the first chapter of a novella.
That's awkward.
Yeah. I thought it was funny as hell, but anyway, I'll have to put that away. So that's what I've been up to. Now,
Race to Terra's audio is in the production queue.
Yay!
Maybe it'll get approved in a couple of weeks. Who knows?
Yay! How long has it been in the queue?
It went in right before I left on this, so a week and something.
Holy crap. ACX is slowing down, man. No comment.
It's headed to retail, and there's nothing I can do. It is what it is.
I know. It just seems like it's taking longer than it used to. I don't know. I haven't been doing it for a while, so.
Well, audio's growing. I would imagine lots more titles means slower process for everything.
Yeah. Well, I probably won't have that experience with Audible again. We'll see. Anyway, that's a whole nother tale. Since you were out enjoying wine and
Can't
talking
drink.
with, huh?
Can't drink.
While you were out there enjoying Napa and dreaming about wine, since you were there, I didn't have anybody to podcast with.
Oh, I'm sure that you would be able to solve that problem.
Well, see, I made the mistake of mentioning something about communities owning content, and then suddenly it started a conversation, and then I ended up inviting John Miro on the show.
That's never a bad decision.
No, especially not here. So without further ado, let's talk about owning your content. Well, there needs to be three of us. The good news is, since he's not here, we don't have to listen to his bullshit about Amazon this time.
So Paul, what kind of Kool-Aid are you going to be serving?
What kind of Kool-Aid am I going to be serving? What do you mean exactly?
What kind of Kool-Aid are you going to be serving today instead of the Terry Mixon approved variety?
Well, it's not a matter of serving it. I've been last several weeks since I guess you and I started talking about several things a while back. I've been looking at what's been going on. I've been looking at the patronage model. I've been looking about how things to go forward from there. And then, of course, we've been talking about the whole subscription thing that you're doing. So,
yeah, well,
figured it's time to bring that out of the shadows.
It's a crazy world where we put all of our eggs in one basket. But the crazier world is where we say, this basket sucks. Oh, look, there's another basket. I'm going to pick my eggs up and put it in that basket. Still one basket.
That's still one basket. Right. So, but at the same time, how do you get around that? Yeah,
it's hard to do anything as an individual if you don't have a billboard and if you're not selling your soul. I mean, 5 years ago, you sold your soul for unlimited Kindle, right? That was how you got your higher royalty, and you gave the middle finger to all those production houses that were in New York that, at this point, it was publishing houses exclusively that didn't want to have anything to do with indies. Hugh Howey and a few other giants came out of that, but then they changed the algorithm or they changed the model. And then you realize, no, you're still dealing with one production house. It's just this basket came inside an Amazon Prime cardboard box.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And I think that the more that we're seeing the profits deteriorate in a lot of these different cases, it makes you start wondering if, and I don't wonder anymore. I'm ready for the next disruption. I want it to happen, and I want to be prepared for it when it does. I don't know what it will be, by any stretch of the imagination. But based on the things that I'm seeing, it's kind of like, well, I think the government is about to start fucking hammering down on some of our overlords. And if not, our overlords are going to change the way they do business one way or another, which could directly impact us negatively or positively. But I'm cynic, and I think we're fucked.
Well, I'm not a cynic. I'm probably a very hopeful person. I smile when I say we're fucked, and we've always been fucked. But it's a question of how you want to be. Well, we don't have to consider this analogy any further.
Let's abandon this metaphor.
The way I prefer to endure and to attempt to build something is to do all the hard work myself. And a lot of people think it's crazy because you need a system, and you do. But the system you should get, when I'm not writing, I'm recording professionally for Audible authors. When I'm not recording professionally for Audible authors, occasionally people foolishly think I know what I'm talking about, and they consult with me. And one of the things that still amazes me is when you have to talk to somebody about why they need their own website, why they need their own mailing list. I heard somebody say, Patreon does it all for me. And then 6 months later, I heard them say, I'm leaving Patreon for Drip. And then Kickstarter's Drip folded, and they came sheepishly back to Patreon going, well, there's no other game in town. This is exactly the same kind of craziness you hear from authors who say, I hate indie authors. I don't want to do any of that work myself. I want to find whoever's going to screw me over the least and make them do all the work, and I'll take whatever paltry profits they leave. Really? Well, what's your royalty? And they always say between $1,500 or $5,000. And if they're lucky, they'll earn out. And if not, then every 2 or 3 years, they'll get another $1,500 or $5,000. How is that better than doing all the work yourself, making a relationship, which every publisher tells you should go out and do anyway, directly with the fans through that mailing list, through your website, or through something that approximates Patreon yourself?
And so then the question becomes, how do you do that?
Mm-hmm. And if you're very lucky to scale to one of the top tiers on Patreon or a YouTube top lister that has millions of views, you need an infrastructure. At which point you have to decide if you're going to build it yourself or go white label with Patreon, which they're just starting to offer. But how many of us are the Stephen King of our industry? And how many of us really want to make so much money that we have to pay lawyers every month? I'd be happy. I'd be happy if I got close to not worrying about the bills, not worrying about the. I'm in Canada. We just found out that it's tax time. We just found out that the government forgave a single individual or corporation $133 million.
Yeah, I saw that.
So right now I'm thinking that's the system. The system, since the Code of Hammurabi was created not to make the individual citizen feel better about life, but to keep the heads attached to as many rich people as possible and give away as few rights as necessary to all those annoying pricks who might kill us. So you have to accept that.
Wait a minute. Whoa. You just told me a little while ago you're not a cynical person.
I'm not. You can't be cynical if you accept that all Amazon is doing. Jeff Bezos, richest man in the world, who I have actually heard it say he's about as rich as Alexander the Great was, if you were to make a comparative statement. Well, the world really hasn't changed. I mean, yeah, we got penicillin and we got the internet, but it's pretty much the same world as in the time of Alexander the Great. What happens in the meantime? We get the printing press. Oh, those pricks think they can talk to each other without us gilding the pages of the manuscript now. And then we get the internet. Oh, those pricks think they can talk to us without us making a cut. We'll throw in laws that we have to get advertising now. Maybe we'll cut the difference, Paul. We'll call me a realist. Nothing changed except for the mode of being screwed. But it's
the bitterness.
No, embrace your utter futility. Say hello. Get a pillow that says, "This is the darkness. Drool on me," and get used to it. But so I decided that I wasn't going to sink all my money into Patreon, and I wasn't going to sink all my time into Patreon because it's the same system as Amazon was, and it's the same deal that last year screwed over YouTubers when they changed their terms.
That fried a lot of people.
Thousands of people went from monetizing to not overnight, and that's going to happen over and over again. So I'm duplicating everything that a mailing list can do. I'm duplicating everything that Patreon can do on my own sites. It's pared down. It doesn't have integrations to Discord, and it doesn't have integrations to Reddit. But guess what? I'm on those platforms anyway. So until they start making, Reddit, the least monetized service on the internet, pay as you go, you really don't need a Patreon. All you're saving yourself is 15 to 20% of work. And how many people had to find a way to make up for it when Patreon or YouTube or Kindle Select 5 years ago changes the rules and pulls the rug out from under you?
Yeah, when suddenly your content is no longer allowed.
No.
And that's been the big concern for me, not only with this show, but my own Patreon on Shadow Publications. Huh?
I heard you wrote.
Yeah, I've been told I write occasionally. It's been the same kind of concern of mine, is the fact that, at any moment, for whatever reason, any content service, and they have the whole right to do this. You do not have a right to be on that system. You are privileged to be on that system. That's the way it works. Mm-hmm. So you can scream about your First Amendment rights to the fucking wall. You can put whatever you want on the internet, but if they choose not to let you do that on that service, tough shit. That's the way it works. Anyway, anyone can change their mind about what's permitted. And if you have all your eggs, as John is saying, in that one basket, when they change the terms, which they can do at any time, read any EULA out there.
Which they always do.
Which they always do. Like, for instance, if you're on Amazon, they change stuff. We don't get notifications that they change something. YouTube, we don't get notifications they're going to change something. It just happens. And if it breaks all of our shit, tough. There's no real respect for the content creators who are making the money for these places. There really isn't. If you think there is, you're a fool. Either that or you're at the top tier where they're kissing your fucking ass. For everybody else, it's bullshit. But regardless, what it seems to me is, and this is kind of my plan, is to be in as many baskets as possible. Mm-hmm. So not focusing. Yeah, basically, what I'll probably do going forward is none of my works are going to be in Amazon Select, Kindle Select.
I just got my last one out.
Do what now?
I just got my last Kindle Select expired.
Yeah, it's time for me to do that with all my other works. Anyway, the black will stay in there until that contract runs out with Sever Press, and Derelict will stay in there as long as Sever Press has the rights to that as well. But anything new, anything old, it's all going wide if I can make it. So looking at Scribble as a possibility to handle, aggregation. Looking at some of the crazy stuff you sent me regarding the thing I was playing with yesterday, which we can talk about later or at some other point. And then, of course, I've installed the eMember, whatever that software is called,
right?
That allows you to set up subscription services with private RSS feeds, the whole 9 yards, all the way down. Same basic functionality as Patreon, but you have control.
I was really happy that you finally let me slap you with a cod and get you to look at that, because this is really important. What you're looking at right now is one of 5 or 6 plugins, and I'd consider it the best because I've tried them all for 2 years. That's the one I settled on myself, because what it allows you to do is create a unique RSS feed for every single member. And that's the secret sauce in Patreon. There's no discoverability in Patreon. There's only the ability to serve your individual patrons the individual pieces of the puzzle that they choose to get, which allows you to create different levels. And if you're in another level than the one that I put out this week, it'll just say, "I'm sorry, Dave, I can't open that pod bay door." But there's other content. Look down lower in the feed. I just see no sense in being in a locked-in. This is why WordPress is so popular. It allowed you to create Blogger and Blogspot. And do you remember LiveJournal? And now you can have it on your own soft server. You don't have to play in anybody else's kingdom if you don't want to.
And I think that's going to be the big part of this going forward. I don't, like I said, I don't know what the next disruption is going to be, but I want to be able to handle it when it comes. Part of that is rebuilding my website, adding new features to that, starting a subscription service, you know, all that other crap. And it's also about looking into alternatives to Facebook and Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Yes, which I've been doing with Mastodon too. Mastodon is open source to Twitter and Facebook as everybody that's on Discord, everybody that's on Slack that enjoys being in communities. Well, we just talked about LiveJournal a few minutes ago. You know, Slack is going to change their terms and make it impossible for you to live with, just like Twitter is really becoming something of a cesspool you have to wade through to find quality content.
Shit, dude, it's been like that for several years now.
Yeah. Now, the problem is the barrier to entry. When you create a subscription model for your site and you load up a plugin in WordPress, you have to do a little digging, a little thinking, and a little future-proof planning. When you decide to use a Mastodon instead of Twitter, there's a bit of a learning curve to learning a new piece of software. The benefit is you control the playground now instead of somebody else that changes the terms and conditions every time they choose.
Right. We talked about this at one point. It's almost like creators, I think, at some point are going to have to create their own hub. Going to have some own hub of creators spread around music, art, writing, whatever, that are basically part of that hub. I keep thinking back to the old, oh God, what were they called? Follow-on links or whatever. You would get into the old blog stuff, everything linked to another blog in the same group. I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
Well,
but that was a blog ring, I think it was called, something like that. But I think that ultimately that model is going to be the way it works. Is, you know, a Scott Sigler leads you to a John Miro, a Paul Lee Cooley, a Jake Bible, etc., and the ring goes all the way around. I think maybe that's ultimately going to be the future of social media is it will be rings.
It's almost like we should create a distributed internet of products and people that you could freely communicate with instead of, Texas, which is all ringed off and only lets in Texans, or Facebook, which is all ringed off and only lets in Facebookians. You have to have a gun if you go to Texas, and you have to look at all the ads if you go to Facebook.
You have to have a gun. Wow.
I'm trying to tickle you.
You're not tickling me. You're making me very, very confused. And my fellow Texans are going to be flying up there to take over you and annex you as a goddamn national park.
We're too
better
polite.
Watch your goddamn mouth.
Polite.
Fucking socialist piece of shit. Anyway, that notwithstanding.
Stupid examples aside, we created the internet. It was built to route around bad actors, natural disasters, and nukes. And then we gave up that freedom to create walled gardens. Everybody likes a walled garden until it kicks you out.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The one thing I don't know how to do, and obviously you and I are going to be working on this, and I'll probably bring in a few other people, but how do you spread the information? I mean, the biggest thing about Facebook and Twitter is you can be seen.
Yep, and that's the secret to hard work.
Right. So on the other services where there aren't nearly as many people, it may be easier to be seen, but it's much more difficult to get the same information out to the same people.
It's just as hard to be seen. There's no discoverability in any of these services except the ones you bring yourself. And what did we say earlier in this call? We're going back to the idea of the mailing list. You have to invest people enough that they're willing to give you your email or follow you to a new platform to get I hate to use this analogy, but to get the news from the horse's mouth, so to speak. It's really important to have people that care enough to follow you. If they're only interested in following you on Facebook, well, the law of averages says Facebook is going to go the way of, we were talking about it earlier, GeoCities and blog rings. And when those people aren't there anymore, or for some reason, Facebook decides you've violated the terms of service.
Right, yeah.
Your 2,000 users show up to your group page one day and it says, I'm sorry, this page is no longer active. And they're like, how do I get in touch with them? How do I here's something else I watch that's shiny.
Yeah,
discoverability is hard, but if you don't put the work in before you're on the outside of that walled garden trying to climb back in, you don't have an alternative.
Well, for the two of us, the podcast has been the weapon that we've had to wield for so long. I mean, that's what got us the listeners or the audience in the first place. Otherwise, we'd still be probably way at the bottom of shit. But that was its own promotional device, and it worked. I don't know how to revive it at this point because audiobooks.com imploded and the audience changed a lot. But I still want to find a way with all of this to make it so that it's as easy as people finding our podcast way back when.
But then again, how easy was it? Before iTunes made podcasts a household word, you only found out about it because you were interested in the medium, or you had a friend that showed you something that you liked. And then you went out and found something called a podcast aggregator, which somehow tied in with the internet and brought you this slurp of delicious new content.
Correct.
Yeah. So again, we're down to the new discoverability comes with tying your content more and more to terms and services that I find onerous, and people are turning off of or not trusting. When I have to actually search through Facebook, I get a little nauseous. When people say, I've got this great stuff, you should follow. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. I like you. I will. But it's right there. I'm unhappy. I have to search through a bunch of really unpleasant stuff. Usually there's notifications from ants and moneylenders and crazy people that I don't want to go through. And some comments that I really wish I didn't have to view from people that I had respect for before they said that thing. So it comes back to this. We have to do the digging now to create something like podcasts. And I think just as early adopters in every field benefit, you have to pick what technology you're going to adopt and what you're going to stick with. Something's going to turn Facebook into MySpace. And part of it may not be people getting fickle, because people are, by and large, happy with Facebook, or at least they're not disgusted with Facebook.
I think you're wrong about that. Well, the under 30s seem to be the 50 and older. They're never going to leave because they just figured out how to do this.
But here's the thing. When people left, they went to Twitter. When people left Twitter, where are they going to go next?
It's a good question. I'm hoping Mastodon.
I'm hoping Mastodon too. Mastodon is great, and it's hard as hell because it is federated Twitter. It is literally just like we joked about earlier with the internet being distributed. Hundreds of servers can run a Mastodon server, and you can become a user. I'll invite you to mine after the show, Paul. And once you're a user there, you can have your comments go only to the people in your community, which gets rid of all of the excrement if you choose to tune it out. But also anybody on every other Mastodon server can see, and there are millions of people using it, can see what you say. So once people get over the learning curve of, oh, do I need another social media plug? Do I need another platform? God, I'm so tired of learning how to do a new thing. And this is kind of a big empty room. Where's all the... I'm going back to the safe, annoying, nauseous of Facebook. That's the heavy digging we have to do, just like building our own subscription service.
Right.
Instead of Patreon. Patreon just changed their terms. They just upped their prescription rate by several percent for nothing. And their one caveat was, oh, but if you're already here, we'll grandfather you at the old rate. Well, that's mighty fine of you. And full disclosure, I worked for Patreon, with Patreon as a consultant for years, and I have the utmost respect for the vice presidents, the founders, and the people at the top. But the corporate culture is not those people. The corporate culture is, hi, I'm your friendly neighborhood vampire venture capitalist, and I gave you X million dollars. I want more millions.
And I want them now. And I want them now.
They're in a profit position, but they keep getting squeezed for more. Daily Tech News Show, Tom Merritt did a very good interview with Jack Conte about these changes to preempt the kind of frustration people would feel. When I listened to him, he said, I feel no pressure from the venture capitalists. I feel no pressure at all. I believe in this culture and I want to do what's right. And I 100% believe him. Here's the problem. He also knows that anytime he doesn't provide the answers in the window the VCs want, they can vote him out. And he loses complete control.
Correct.
So the man with the heart of gold is doing things, he says, that will benefit the people on the platform. But really, they're only going to benefit the people that pay extra money for the white label services at the top. There's no extra things, or very little, coming to the mid tiers and the low tiers, the Patreon Lite that they're going to roll out. But what you're seeing is, yet again, more people, more muddy, less message, less content.
Yeah, the people, I don't think anybody's found me through Patreon.
No.
They have found me through my podcast. They have found me through DRS. They have found me through my YouTube videos. They have found me through Twitter. They have found me through word of mouth. They have found me by reading one of my books and coming back for more. That's how they found me. Somebody doesn't go to Patreon and say, "Oh, what writers can I support?" I don't know of anybody who does that. It's somebody that you've heard about or seen some of their work, read some of their work, bought some of their work. Those are the folks that come find you on a service like Patreon when you tell them about it. If you tell them about your own subscription service, I guarantee you some of them are going to jump at it just because they want to get away from these other services. I have had a couple of patrons for both DRS and myself who dropped out the first time Patreon did their bullshit.
Yeah.
And they left then as a big, finger to Patreon, ended up sending me money on the side through PayPal directly.
Right, go back to my Twitter feed. 3 or 4 days ago, I did this exact experience. I've had a purge several times. I've almost recovered as many as I've lost in Patreon on my own site now. But I think I'm down to like 50 or 54 people on Patreon that support me. The reason being, I'm tired of this bullshit. And they've encouraged me to do the same thing. I've gone out and I found the LibraPay link, and I've gone out and I found the direct PayPal link to give people $10 a year instead of $1, or $30 a year instead of $5 a month. And you know what? They get a bigger percentage. I had a real mental problem with this, Paul. How are they going to know that I'm not a good guy and giving them lots of money if they don't see my name in their face every month? I had to get past my own ego and say, fuck that. They're going to get more money from me and be able to do more if I give them a lump sum. And if they don't remember my name because they only see me once a year, I'm still getting what they bring into the world. It's not, get your ego out of the way and think about how much more, or put your ego right in the way. Feed me more stories and they'll give you more. They won't know your name maybe, but they'll give you more because you've given them more to work with. Because right now the secret is those guys that dumped your ass on Patreon and came back to you directly, Paul, you get more of the money. And you know where that money came from? It came from the money movers who have their finger in every pie on every service. And they want their percentage to give the money from one person to the other. That's all Patreon can do. In years, they have yet to come up with a discoverability engine. I've had 10 or 12 people find me through other creators, and I like working and collaborating. I've had other writers and other voice artists on my show, on my podcasts, and they've come over and become patrons. And that's because it's fun, and I want them to find me, but they're never going to have any kind of really cool central thread like, a Facebook or a Twitter that combines this stuff, because it's not in their interest. There's no money being made from that.
And yet the sad part is it would actually justify their existence.
They want to be a dumb pipe. I hate to be.
They want to be a dumb pipe. Everybody wants to be a dumb pipe. That's how you make the most money.
Yeah. But when you're a dumb pipe, you can also say, I'm not a common carrier. There's no restrictions. The big problem Patreon got into a year ago was the government wanted to change the way they had held money. And they were panicking, all due respect to the good people on the creative side, because they didn't want to be hit with massive fines or massive changes of how their money was going to be processed by the government. It's not about creators. When you get to a scale this big, when you live in New York City, Bill de Blasio does not care about the one person who has a rip in his jeans. He doesn't care. He can't. And Patreon, they want to build some great tools, but they don't care about the creators because they can't. They're too big. They want scale.
Yeah, scale is both the hindrance and the boon.
Yeah.
Because if you can reach, like, for instance, if either of us could get to the point where, say, we had 1,000 patrons, suddenly that dumb pipe, pretty hard to ignore.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if we were able to get 1,000 subscribers to our own stuff, even if we only got paid in one lump sum a year, and the vast majority of that money would come in on day one of the new year or whatever, however you did it. That would still set you up, allow you to budget, do everything else that we cannot do in a lot of ways with Patreon, that we cannot do with Audible, that we cannot do with Kindle or any of these other services, because we have no effing idea how much money is actually going to come in. That's one of the cool things about Patreon is I know that I can at least count on having this much extra month, money a month.
Yeah.
And I know you and I both know that when they changed the terms last time, and if they change the terms again,
it's going to cost us dozens or $20 or $30, $40 a month.
Yeah, at least. And that's not counting all the people who are going to quit. So it's just a mess. So basically what we're talking about is we both want to be prepared. We both see that there's a reason to start investigating these other things and start educating yourself. Yes, it's a pain in the ass. Yes, it takes time. Yes, you're going to fuck it up. But the thing is, like, for instance, while I'm testing out subscription service, I'm going to grab a few folks that I know that are on Patreon right now and the couple that left and say, hey, come test this out and let's see if we can get this working before I open it up to the rest of the universe and work out the kinks.
And here's the other thing I've done. Everybody that follows me on patreon.com/servingworlds gets a free account on my website. Ooh. If you're already my patron and you're paying me, come on over.
Yeah.
And by the way, I can do something Patreon can't. I really like you being my patron. I'll make it cheaper if you sign up for a year at a time. Because I don't have to pay PayPal. When you give somebody $2 a month, you're a great guy. But a lot more of that money goes to PayPal than if you gave that person $15 a year once, because they take a little bite out of every little microtransaction.
Right.
And then when Paul and I are ranting and raving because we have half-formed ideas about where to take this, I think I've finally got a working Patreon clone, and I'm very happy. I hope it will work out better than those Attack of the Clone movies. But
oh God, John, why did you have to bring that into this?
I wanted to fuck up half as bad as I did with Texas again. I love you, Texas.
Only half? Yeah, you better, buddy.
Everybody that's listening to us right now and goes, oh shit, I want to get in on this. I have content and I'm not getting more than a trickle. These are the same people that came in on podcasting, right? Some of us that podcast make more money, even with life and problems and losing a few $100s, because Patreon can be a douchebag. We make more money than many of our friends do on just getting one single advance every year or two, because that's model only benefits the very top. And that kind of stratification is coming to Patreon, and it's coming to YouTube, and it's coming to Facebook communities that are going to start having more onerous rules and advertising and problems with elections, yada, yada, yada. That is going to make it hard for you to follow a creator. So what we have to do is convince individual people who like our work, who talk to us, to dip a toe in an unfriendly water, because people have to adapt to come with us. If they don't follow us, then we don't have people that are listening anymore.
Yeah, that's another big problem. I mean, I know when everything changed back for audiobooks, I keep using audiobooks.com, but back in the ancient days, that was the only place you could go to find the audiobooks, the podcast books that people had done, and etc. When that kind of fell out of favor and everything went to iTunes, everything got really confusing for a while. And we got lost because instead of there being just 1,000 podcasts, suddenly there were 100,000. Mm-hmm. So we both had to work on building that word of mouth all over again, because it changed so rapidly. And I certainly do not want to get caught in the crossfire of that again.
And this is why I'm never saying to anybody leave Patreon as a creator.
No, I'll have both going. I'll have both going.
I need a Twitter account. I need a Facebook account. I need an Instagram. But they're just dumb billboards. I can't get into a realistic discussion with 300 people. But I can get into a realistic discussion with the 100 to 200 max, and only like 20 or 30 of them follow on any one post or anything, that want to know how I built that cover or where's this story going. That you lose track of people in too big a pool anyway. So one thing we have going for us is that Patreon, before Patreon, we had YouTube where tested, but really we had podcasts, we had Severed Press before I abandoned ship, and now a lot of the other people have. We've looked for those small markets where we can do what we're doing and reach the few people who care. And we have to keep doing that, because it's like jumping from small iceberg to small iceberg. You don't want to be stuck somewhere when there's nowhere to go to. You got to try to be nimble if you're a small creator, because there are not too many of us that make fuck you Stephen King money.
Yeah, very few of us. Very few of us. Well, where can we find you, John, if we want to babble and find out more about your work?
Servingworlds.com. That's where I do everything. It's my own website. You can subscribe there. You can subscribe through Patreon. I have not given up on podcasting. You can still get at least 1 or 2 free podcast episodes every month. Patreon.com is where you go if you are happy with the system and you've got yourself plugged into Discord and you've got yourself plugged into the other integrations. But servingworlds.com is where you go if you just want the raw, unfettered future frontier stories.
Well, if you have questions, comments about this episode, or you want to check me on my rant, you can send an email to show@deadrobotsociety.com. You can tweet me at Paul_E_Cooley. You can find us on Facebook at the Listeners of the Dead Robot Society Facebook group, where all the insanity happens. We have to thank our wonderful host, Pod Hoster, who makes all 14 bazillion episodes of the Dead Robot Society available for your ear holes. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/DRS podcast. And if you want to support us, you can find us at patreon.com/DRS podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you get access to insane, unexpurgated shows, live shows, things like of that nature. Yeah, we're it's DRS After Dark or something.
You just turned everyone off.
Yeah, they probably all just.
Notes, flubs. The script was perfect. Terry would have been proud.
Oh yeah, whatever. And if you're a patron at the $10 level, you get your name read every week. And here we go. Andrew Smallwood, J.D. Barker, Veronica Jaguar, Jack F. Erickson, Kelson, why can't this baby sleep? Wow, I think every parent since the dawn of time has asked that question.
I think Samuel L. Jackson put it best when he's saying, never mind, we won't go into what we want to be told.
Isabel Cushy, Rick Shaw, Lisa Slack, Nathan Cosby, Cheryl Winters, Tracy Bodine, Devin Lee, Drew, what could possibly go wrong, Bernardi, Chris Winder, Andre Conde Moraes, DJ Chamberlain, and J.R. Handley. Thank you very much, patrons, as always. And John, thank you very much for coming on the show. And servingworlds.com, get your ass there. I've been a patron of this bozo since Patreon started. I've known him for 10, 11 years or so, something like that.
I have the photos.
Yeah, he has the photos. We also have the tweets to prove it, unfortunately. So go check him out. Good sci-fi stuff, good fantasy. Go check it out, servingworlds.com. With that, we will see you next week. Say goodbye, John.
Goodbye.
Wow, that was almost as bad as mine. Later.